Hey, Scott Wilkinson here, Director of Content at AVS Forum. I'm here with David Bott, the founder of AVS, and Dan Schinasi, the Senior Manager of Product Planning at Samsung for televisions, and we're talking 4K, or should we say UHD?
Ultra high def, that's right, yeah.
Now, Samsung, of course, is one of the major players in that market. We've already got a bunch of TVs coming out. Any announcements here at the show?
No specific announcements at this show, but we're going to join your panel tomorrow, and we're going to talk about ultra high definition and our perspective on the industry.
Now, as we've talked about in a couple of other interviews, it's a bit of a chicken and egg problem, right? You've got the displays and you've got the content. And which one will come first? Well, it seems the displays are coming first. But that's before we even have all of the technical parameters worked out for the content. Like, for example, bit depth, frame rate, color gamut, HDMI 2.0. Samsung has come up with, I think, a really good solution to that problem. Tell us about it.
Sure. So our approach, we understand and we participate in a lot of these standards activities. So we're quite knowledgeable about all the standards that are evolving. And we don't want our customers left in the dark, and rightfully so after that kind of investment in a premium product. So our solution is to offer all of the connectivity. It's outboarded. So we offer what we call a One Connect box. And the One Connect box has your HDMI interface, also has your main processor. So as the standards evolve, such as HDMI 2.0, we can swap out that One Connect box, and customer can enjoy all of the latest innovations.
And will that also allow you to, for example, accept 2160p at 60 frames when that becomes available, presuming it becomes available?
Absolutely. That's the so-called AKA HDMI 2.0, which is, as I understand, it's not yet the official name, but it's a candidate name for the next generation HDMI. And I think that part was publicly announced, that it will double the frame rate. I'm sorry, yeah, it'll double the bandwidth, which will be 60 hertz.
Now, I've heard it said that by some that what's 60 hertz, 60 frames per second, not even that important. Movies are at 24, they probably will stay there. They might go to 48, maybe to 60, but that's somewhere down the line. How important really is it, do you think?
For fast motion, it is important, especially in sports. So it's gonna play a point. It's gonna play a part in the ecosystem. And personally, if I were a consumer and looking for the latest and greatest TV, and I knew that 60 frames per second is just on the horizon, I wouldn't want to be left in the dark.
What's your hit on the whole content delivery system? I mean, we could have a new Blu-ray standard, possibly. I understand they're meeting in Macau this week to consider whether or not to consider creating a 4K or a UHD standard. Or do you think it's more likely that we'll get it by internet delivery and downloading and streaming?
So I think it's going to come in many ways. So I'm very optimistic that they call it FEST. That's the Feature Enhancement Standards Task Force that's meeting in Macau this week. I guess their work is confidential, but we know that they're working on, or at least considering, a 4K standard, an optical standard. So I'm relatively confident that that will they'll at least move the project forward. So that's one possibility. So I think we will see an optical standard at some point in time. We will also see streaming at some point in time, and that's going to be made possible by HEVC. HEVC being the super efficient compression scheme that's coming out.
Otherwise known as H.265.
That's right, H.265. So what they're saying is that presents somewhere between a 40 and 50% efficiency. So that will still going to be a little bit of a challenge, but that with HEVC, you possibly could stream 4K.
But at a pretty low bandwidth, and I would guess you might get compression artifacts or other problems streaming at such a low bandwidth.
Well, I guess it all depends on your internet connection. Some people with fiber to their home perhaps can do a little bit better, but that also it also opens up the possibility of a buffering and then a playback or storage as well.
Going back to your panels and interchangeable box, what was the name of that? That was
One Connect. Yeah.
okay. So you got your One Connect box, which basically allows you to change out the brain, if you will, which is great. So in regards to the panel then, how do you know that the panel itself is going to accept what you put in the box? Are the panels built to accept up to 120 refresh rate if you put it in? Or so you got the box, but you got a panel, but the panel's got specs too. So
For example, the panel will have a native color gamut, and if the color gamut of UHD is widened, how will you deal with that?
Well, we'll always be at the limitation of the panel, but the color gamut is quite wide, and some of the proposals what you're seeing for color gamut, you're gonna find it hard pressed for any display other than laser based to possibly reproduce some of the wide color. So it's going to be a challenge for any type of LCD based product.
what is the bit depth then in your color of your panel?
I don't think we publicly stated, but that's
We don't want to put you on the spot.
but it's a good question. Yeah.
I didn't know anything was off the record, So.
One question regarding panels is Samsung has an 85-inch, of course, and also now a 55 and a 65, right? I mean,
New announcements. They have not actually debuted in stores, but publicly announced.
it has been publicly announced. My question for you is, what is the advantage of 4K at a panel size that we would consider perhaps relatively small? I mean, 55, 65 used to be huge, but now it's not considered huge. 50-inch TV, 55-inch TV, that's a very common size. Is there really any advantage to UHD at that size?
There is. If you have to look a little bit beyond just the resolution. So if you look beyond resolution, and there's a resolution story there as well, where you can actually sit closer to the display without seeing any pixel artifacts. But putting aside the resolution enhancement, there's the wider color gamut, the higher bit depth. I mean, there's other things that are coming as well. So if you look at all of those things, it tells a good story.
There is an advantage to that as well. Okay.
Well, especially if you say the color gamut and stuff is coming, because right now I tend to agree but disagree that at a small panel, you're not going to see the benefit for the most consumer unless you can see a dynamic change. In that case, the color gamut, where you can visually see a difference. The pixel structure, you're right, you're not going to see because it's too close together as it is, depending on the average sitting living room, you're talking about 8-10 feet away. So you're not going to never see it.
It wouldn't be just a resolution story at that particular.
And I think in general, one thing we're learning here is that UHD is not only about resolution. There are a lot of other issues that we need to be considering in a holistic view.
Right, and I agree, and that's why I agree with your approach on the changeable box. Because as we learned in the past with Samsung, which AVS has had a great relationship with in the past, and still do, that when you guys release a product and AVS members might tell you there's something wrong, Samsung has always stood behind the end consumer. And that's always been great, and we appreciate that. And as a site, it goes a long way, for the members of a site to also have knowing that Samsung is watching and reading and making adjustments. With this new box, approach, you can actually make that more in real time, if you will, or even upgradable if you download new firmware or what have you. So I give you guys good kudos for that.
So we've always supported for years now. We've supported our TV with firmware. So we will always offer firmware to address even with the existing hardware, new features as best we can. But there'll be some enhancements that will require new hardware. So that's again the purpose of the One Connect box.
I would rather change a box than have to change a card at the back of a television.
That's our approach, yeah.
Any news from Samsung regarding content? I mean, upscaling Blu-ray players or media streamers, media boxes, anything like that?
Not at the show, but we are looking at all the different options. So, as I said, we have H.265. We will support H.265. So that opens up. A lot of avenues. I'm not sure you had a chance to go to NCTA 2 weeks ago. Comcast showed, it's a cable show for industry, and Comcast showed 4K transmission through plant. It was a concept, and they just wanted to show the technical capability of it. And
So they actually transmitted it through their plant as if it was going out to the home.
yes, exactly. I mean, it was a control test, but to show, hey, we're working on this. It's coming.
Did you see it? Did it look any good?
It looked terrific. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.